Okay, so the irony of the Obama administration's positioning in the Middle East is this. Clearly, they have wanted to recalibrate, to some extent, traditional U.S. focus in the Middle East, which has been centered on two fulcrums: Israel, Saudi Arabia. Israel's obviously our prime ally. Israel's a major weapons market for us. We have very close intelligence coordination, and obviously, even someone like me, who's a fierce critic of Israeli policy, many people share many cultural connections with Israel. And if you live in New York, Israel, along with a couple of other places, certainly like particularly in the Caribbean, sometimes feels like a sixth borough of this city. So there's a lot of closeness there. And obviously, we'll get to that in a moment with this new arms deal that was just inked with Israel. Israel's one focal point. Saudi Arabia is another. And both Saudi Arabia and Israel, but maybe even more so Saudi Arabia, have been enraged by the Iran deal. The Saudis perceived that as a slap in the face. They perceived it as, along with the Obama administration, in fact, not backing Hosni Mubarak before he was deposed, as all threats to a sort of regional Saudi-led stability. Now, you got to realize that with the Saudis, it is not just they will export Islamic fundamentalism, fanaticism, and terrorism. But their prime aim, particularly regional, is stability. That's why they opposed Mubarak. That's why they opposed the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and would prefer a military dictatorship, rather. So, as all part of this angering of Saudi Arabia, the administration has appeared to just turn a completely blind eye to what Saudi Arabia is doing in Yemen. Saudi Arabia has been undertaking military operations in Yemen to attack a group called the Houthis. Now, the Houthis are an organic movement in Yemen that represents, to some respects, Shia rights. They've received support from Iran, but they are not an artificial group created by Iran as a proxy, which is what the Saudi position is. They've been at war against the Houthis. We've looked the other way, and we've sold them a massive amount of artillery and weapons, and I'll get to that in 1 second. But this is an important finding going back from last week. More than a third of Saudi-led air raids on Yemen have hit civilian sites. I'm quoting now from The Guardian, such as school buildings, hospitals, markets, mosques, and economic infrastructure, according to the most comprehensive survey of the conflict. The findings revealed by The Guardian on Friday contrast with claims by the Saudi government, backed by the U.S. and British allies, that Riyadh is seeking to minimize civilian casualties. The survey, conducted by the Yemen Data Project, a group of academics, human rights organizations, and activists, will add to mounting pressure on the U.S. and U.K. and the Saudi-led coalition, which is facing accusations of breaching international humanitarian law. The U.K. and the United States have been selling a significant amount of weapons to Saudi Arabia during this assault. And one of those weapons, and this is according to a report from the Washington Post, appears to be U.S.-supplied white phosphorus, which Saudi has been using in Yemen. This is now from the Washington Post. The U.S. regulations of white phosphorus sold to other countries is based solely on signaling to other troops and recreating smoke screens. When the ammunition explodes, it releases a white phosphorus that automatically ignites in the air and creates thick white smoke. When used against soldiers or civilians, it can maim and kill by burning. Now, since 2009, this is back into the Post, the Obama administration has facilitated more than $115 billion in 42 different arms sales to Saudi Arabia, more than any other U.S. administration, according to the Security Assistance Monitor. Batches of equipment are likely to be delivered for years to come, end quote. So you have a dynamic where the administration has been willing to buck Saudi Arabia and move away from them on core strategic grounds, leading again to the Iran deal, which is a just unprecedented and incredible diplomatic achievement. All involved deserve endless credit. But we have outsourced Yemen to basically appease Saudi Arabia and give our domestic arms industry a boost. And it is strategically short-sighted and obviously, at the very least, profoundly morally questionable. Now, let's go to Israel. Israeli intransigence under the Netanyahu government and really the just sort of complete domination of the far right in Israeli politics, it has turned into the Trump nation of the Middle East, has disturbed the Obama administration. We weren't able to cover it, I don't think, but a couple weeks ago, Netanyahu released a statement, a YouTube video saying that if you oppose settlement construction and wanted to remove settlements, which are a violation of international law and an impediment to any type of durable, sustainable deal there, that you supported the ethnic cleansing of Jews. A statement so ludicrous and offensive that even the State Department let itself be known at how offended and wrong-headed those statements were. So there has been no movement on any of these issues. The Obama administration has made some sort of rhetorical critiques, but obviously close coordination has continued apace. And even after Netanyahu came to the United States Congress and attempted to interfere in American domestic politics and global decision-making, there really haven't been any consequences. And now the next step of that is a U.S. aid deal dealing with the military that really, in practice, solidifies and shows the Israeli far right that there isn't going to be any diplomatic or strategic consequence for intransigence, at least from the United States. Now, I'm going to read now from this as well, this report in Al Jazeera. A new military aid deal formalized between the United States and Israel on September 14th could serve to boost an intransigent right-wing Israeli government that has shown little appetite for substantial concessions to the Palestinians. The primary lesson that an increasingly extremist Israeli right will draw from this agreement is that there's no significant international consequences, but rather significant rewards for their behavior, said Moneen Rabbani, a senior fellow at the Institute for Palestine Studies. Now, how objectively could this be interpreted in any other way? This is a government now that has consistently dodged all of its obligations. Netanyahu ran on a re-election of dark warnings about Arabs voting, highly racially charged. He's in coalition with a government that includes ministers that have called for ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, and none of whom even pretend to respect the diplomatic niceties of respecting the policies of their most important ally. And in fact, they've actually found a lot of support in other quarters. Israel isn't facing any international consequences for doing this. It's bad for the brand, but not bad strategically. And unfortunately, I think this issue has shifted primarily to one that obviously is a horrible humanitarian stain on the world, but doesn't have strategic interest in the way we would sort of narrowly define it. There's obviously all sorts of intelligence coordination, which has continued apace. I think Ehud Barak and others have acknowledged that the Obama administration has been among the best, if not the best, of any U.S. administration in terms of dealing with Israel in those regards. So the irony is, as with so much of the Obama administration, there are some real moves forward. There are some really important thinking, and then some very staunch reaffirmations of the status quo.
Hey folks, Sam Seder here. I just got back from a company-wide meeting. Accounting is really coming down on me hard. We need to get to 100,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So please enjoy this channel. Subscribe right down there.